Have you ever met someone who looked ordinary on the outside, but carried a mind and heart so extraordinary that the world itself had to stop and listen? Stay with me until the very end of this story, because what one single dad janitor did in the quiet halls of a university shocked every scientist on Earth, and left a lesson that may change your own life forever. And if this story touches your heart, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more inspiring stories that remind us of the hidden miracles around us. The man's name was Daniel Carter. A single dad. A veteran. And by all appearances, just a janitor at a local university. His uniform was faded, his shoes worn out, and his eyes carried the weight of wars no one else could see. He didn't speak much. Students passed him daily without a glance, professors brushed by him as though he were invisible, and most people assumed he was just another man who'd been broken by life. What no one knew, what no one even dared to imagine, was that Daniel carried something inside him that would one day stun the scientific community, a genius-level IQ of over 900. Every evening, after his shift mopping floors and scrubbing lecture halls, Daniel would sit quietly with his daughter, Emily. She was 10 years old, bright-eyed, and the very center of his world. Her mother had left years ago, unable to handle the struggles of raising a child while her husband fought wars overseas. But Daniel never blamed anyone. He had promised himself that Emily would never feel abandoned, never feel alone, even if he had to sacrifice everything. And so, while others saw only a janitor pushing a mop, Emily saw a hero who tucked her in every night, cooked her favorite meals, and whispered stories of stars, numbers, and mysteries of the universe that only he seemed to understand. One day, the university was buzzing with tension. In the physics department, scientists were wrestling with a problem that had haunted them for years. A theoretical equation, something so complex that even the brightest minds had failed to crack it. Grants were on the line, reputations were at stake, and the frustration grew so thick you could feel it in the air. Late that night, when the lights had dimmed and the classrooms were empty, Daniel wheeled his mop bucket into the lecture hall. On the blackboard, scrawled in chalk, was the monstrous equation. Lines of numbers and symbols sprawled across the wall like a tangled web. Daniel paused. His hands tightened on the mop handle. He knew this equation. He had seen versions of it in military files, in secret projects during his service, problems unsolved then and still haunting scientists now that he dropped the mop, walked to the board, and picked up a piece of chalk. His mind moved like lightning, every connection unfolding in silence. Hours passed. By dawn, the chalkboard was filled with elegant solutions, lines of logic so clear and precise it looked like music written in mathematics. He left the room quietly, returning to his janitor duties, leaving behind a gift no one expected. When the professors arrived the next morning, they froze. Their jaws dropped. This wasn't just progress. This was a breakthrough. The problem that had stumped the scientific world for decades had been solved, and no one knew who had done it. At first, whispers spread, maybe a visiting scholar, maybe a prank. But day after day, more complex problems appeared on the board, and each time, someone, some silent genius, left behind answers that bent the very laws of what they thought was possible. It wasn't long before suspicion turned to Daniel. A professor stayed late one night and witnessed him at the board, chalk in hand, his eyes glowing with focus and clarity. "Daniel, what are you doing?" the professor whispered. Daniel froze. For a long time, he didn't speak. Then he said softly, "Just cleaning up." But the truth was undeniable. The janitor with calloused hands and tired eyes had a mind sharper than any scientist alive. Word spread like wildfire. The veteran janitor was invited to seminars, conferences, even interviews with world leaders. Some mocked him, saying it was impossible for a janitor to solve what entire institutions could not. But when Daniel stood before their chalkboards, solving problems in minutes that had taken years to unravel, silence fell in every room he entered. The world could not deny him anymore. Yet, Daniel never changed who he was. He refused fancy cars, big houses, or endless fame. All he wanted was to make sure Emily had a better life. And when reporters asked him, "What drives you? What gives you the strength to solve what no one else can?" he would simply smile and point to his daughter. "Everything I do," he said, "is for her. She's my equation. She's my answer." But life wasn't without challenges. The scientific world tried to claim his work, corporations wanted to own his ideas, and powerful figures pressured him to abandon his principles. Some even mocked his past, calling him just a janitor, or a man who had wasted his life. But Daniel never wavered. He reminded them that titles don't measure worth, that uniforms don't measure intelligence, and that a man's value isn't in what the world calls him, but in how he loves, protects, and gives to those who need him most. And so,